Hello, I am Peter Okwache. Welcome to Focus on Africa. Our top stories. Case adjourned. The imprisoned leader of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, Zakzaky, has his bail hearing adjourned. This comes after the Nigerian government bans the group. A Nigerian writer and a Somali boxer are amongst 15 women featured on the cover of British Vogue magazine. The ugly side of beautiful Cape Town. We ride with South African police to look at increasing violence there. Also on the program, investing in assistive technology. We meet a Kenyan man who is hoping to finance hardware and software for people with disabilities. And in sport, the draw for the preliminary round of Africa's qualifying campaign for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar has been held, and there are some tasty ties already. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. A court in the northern Nigerian city of Kaduna has adjourned its bail hearing for the leader of the Shia Islamic Movement of Nigeria group until August the 5th. Sheikh El-Zakzaky and his wife Zinai are both facing an 8-count charge of allegations including culpable homicide, unlawful assembly and disruption of the public peace, amongst others. His supporters have been calling for his release. The Nigerian government has also banned the movement after protest turned violent last week. Miney Jones has the background report.
It all started relatively calmly. A Shia group protesting a week ago requesting the release of their leader. But it soon descended into chaos. The Islamic movement in Nigeria claimed 20 of their members were killed. Ahmad was one of the protesters.
Policemen arrested me. When they arrested me, they continued beating me. I was brought here because I was unconscious. The last thing I could remember is that they poured something very cold on my body, and it was very painful.
Security agents came out and started sporadic shooting from all angles at boys and girls, men and women. As they were shooting, we were calling the name of Allah, Allahu Akbar. It was then that I felt them shoot me. I looked down and I told our people that they had shot me.
Despite the violent crackdown, members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria continue to protest daily. The situation today is relatively calm, but just on our way here, we saw a heavy police presence all around central Abuja. The police says this is an armed and dangerous group, and they've reacted very violently in the past to their gatherings, but the movement deny that they have any intent of violence.
The Sunni Muslims are our brothers, the Christians are our brothers in humanity, and even non-believers are our brothers in, as Nigerians, they are our brothers. So we don't have enemies. We don't use arms.
The Shia protesters say they'll stop coming out on the streets if their leader is freed. A federal high court in Abuja ordered the release of Ibrahim El-Zakzaky in 2016, but a state court has ignored the ruling.
If this crackdown continues, if governmental authorities continue to send security agents to kill them, they are likely to be radicalized and may resort to procurement of arms. And if that happens, it will be a serious problem for Nigeria.
Nigerian authorities are already tackling the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, as well as an increase in kidnappings across the country. A sectarian war in the heart of the country is something nobody wants. Miney Jones, BBC News, Abuja.
Well, let's get more now from our correspondent Chris Ewoko, who joins us from Abuja. Chris, Miney's report there gives us the background to this case. What happened in court today?
Today in Kaduna, the High Court adjourned the case, the bail hearing for the Shiite leader Ibrahim El-Zakzaky to August 5th. The El-Zakzaky was not in court. He was not brought in by the authorities that are holding him in captivity. Now, the argument in court was whether he should be allowed to travel out of the country for medical treatment. Government lawyers say that letting him out of the country means he would evade justice. But Zakzaky's lawyer said that he needs to be alive to face justice. Therefore, he is asking that he should be allowed to travel out of the country. Now, he has been in detention since 2015 alongside his wife. A court in 2016 in Abuja ordered his release, but that order has not been obeyed.
And Chris, I understand that just today, before the court sitting started, the government has actually banned the Islamic Movement of Nigeria.
Yes, Peter. On Friday, a federal high court here in Abuja granted the government permission to proscribe the group. The president, Muhammadu Buhari, in a statement said that the government had to act against the group because it seems that the situation might be getting out of hand. Now, technically, this means that the group may not be allowed to gather to carry out some of the activities like protest or some other forms of procession. It's technically, the soldiers might be engaging with the group rather than the police. Now, again, it is a bit difficult at this time to say whether the group has actually been fully proscribed or not, despite the court order.
And Chris, I mean, this is not the only challenge that the government is facing. Just yesterday, news that in the northeast of the country, in Borno State, 65 people killed in a suspected Boko Haram attack. Yes,
Peter. 65 of them were mourners, actually. They were gathered together to bury their dead when gunmen riding on motorbikes descended on them in the village and fired sporadically into them, killing many of them and injuring many others. This is the biggest, massacre in recent weeks, especially after last week's attack in an IDP camp, and then a video surfacing showing some aid workers calling on the government and international community to help secure their release. Now, these attacks also sort of show that the group is still very, very active in the northeast of the country.
Okay, Chris Ewoko, live from Abuja. Thank you very much. Now, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, has become the first guest editor of British Vogue's September issue. That's the fashion magazine's most important edition of the year. She's chosen to focus on female empowerment and diversity. The issue of Vogue features 15 women, including Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, South Sudanese model Adut Akech, and Somali boxer Ramla Ali. Ali spoke to Focus on Africa last year about her career.
Every day I'm getting messages from people saying you're doing an incredible thing for our country, you're raising awareness for our country. It would be a great honour to represent Somalia at the Olympics, and purely because I think it would make my mum so proud, it would make my family proud, make the community proud, and for me that's just a huge honour.
Now, let's take a quick look at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. Another medical worker has reportedly been killed by an airstrike in Tripoli today. The UN-backed government of national accord is blaming the Libyan National Army led by the rogue general Khalifa Haftar. It comes after an attack on Sunday at a field hospital which reportedly killed 5 medical workers. The DR Congo's Ministry of Health says a person who tested positive for Ebola on the 25th of July in the Lubero Health Zone has escaped the Ebola treatment center and is believed to have returned to the community. Medical teams are attempting to trace the individual. Now, Cape Town is well known as a tourist hotspot, but also one of the most divided and dangerous cities in the world. It's averaged 8 murders a day for the first 6 months of the year. In one weekend in July, 43 people were killed. Our reporter, Valdi Karelsa, along with cameraman Christian Parkinson, spent a weekend on the streets of the city with the police and the army, as well as families of those who were killed. Please be advised, the following story carries content of a violent nature.
First on the scene, the Metropolitan Police's law enforcement officers are out on patrol in a dangerous part of Cape Town. Jerick Junies grew up on these streets.
It's a never-ending story, man. You killed my dad, I will kill you. You killed my brother, I will kill you. I call it the colored curse, the brain man's curse, because everyone is willing to pick up a knife or a gun to avenge someone else's death.
What's your wallet in your phone? Take out your wallet in your phone, please.
Often the guns are turned against police. 6 members of the anti-gang unit were shot and injured last month. Over the weekend we were filming, 3 more were shot. One of them died.
Okay, you guys go left now, we're gonna go right.
We got a glimpse of the danger they face every day.
Yeah, that's why you run. You see? And I need 2 more. 2 more. 1 more.
Is that sort of weapon something you'd normally find?
No, normally you find handguns. But that's a big weapon. I'm also quite shocked. Holding. That is my thinking. If I get 1 gun off the street, I'm saving hundreds of lives. So, 1 gun, yo, that's how many cars, how many hijackings, how many murders.
But policing can't fix the social and economic inequality in these areas. This is Blikkiesdorp, home to over 20,000 people. Sprawling townships like these are a legacy of apartheid. A month ago, 5 men were shot execution style in this shack. 15-year-old Mohammed Kiam Peterson was one of the victims. His little sister and brother watched as he died.
The violence has got more and more there, and the children are not safe in that place. Truly, they're not even safe in the park. I'm not supposed to be like that. If you're not even safe in your own house, how can you be safe outside?
To make these streets a little safer, the army's been called in. The army is meant to reinforce the police, who are thin on the ground. With more than 1,000 soldiers on the streets of some of the troubled hotspots, theirs is a temporary deployment, a stopgap measure to help halt the killings. Kiam's mother, Shiam, hopes she won't have to bury another son. After the murder, the family had to leave Blikkiesdorp, and now they're hoping for a fresh start.
I know violence is everywhere, but at least do my part, because I already lost 1 son and I don't want to lose another.
Valdi Karlse, BBC News, Cape Town.
This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. With me, Peter Okwache. Still to come, we meet a Kenyan man who's hoping to finance hardware and software for people with disabilities. I'm Peter Okoche. The top stories this are: the imprisoned leader of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, Zakzaky, has had his bail hearing case adjourned. This comes after the Nigerian government banned the group. And Meghan Markle has guest-edited British Vogue's September issue, focusing on female empowerment. The issue includes Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Ramla Ali, and Adut Akech. Ethiopia has planted more than 350 million trees in a day in what the government believes is a world record. Well, that's according to a government announcement on state TV. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed today led the project, which aims to counter the effects of deforestation and climate change in the drought-prone country. The UN says Ethiopia's forest coverage declined from 35% of total land in the early 20th century to a little above 4% in the 2000s. Here's the BBC's Haptamu Tibebo.
Today, Ethiopia is on a country-wide campaign of planting trees. This is part of the Green Legacy initiative by the country's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to fight climate change and environmental degradation. For the past weeks, the country has been getting ready for this day, digging millions of holes and preparing seedlings. And today, Ethiopians from different walks of life are taking part, and public offices are on shutdown for civil servants to join the campaign. The Prime Minister himself today planted seedlings in Arba Minch and Walaita Sodo towns. In his recent message, the country's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed called for collective action to fight climate change by planting trees. And today he asked his country's citizens to care for the trees they planted. Ethiopia has planned to plant 4 billion trees in 4 months. BBC News, Haptamu Tibebo, Walaita Sodo.
And just in case you were wondering, the record for the highest number of trees planted in a day by an individual, according to the Guinness Book of Records, is held by Ken Chaplin of Canada, who planted just over 15,000 red pine seedlings in 2001. How about that? You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. It's now time for some sports. Pierre-Antoine Denis, bienvenue.
Thank you, Peter. The draw for the preliminary round of Africa's qualifying campaign for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar has been held in Egypt. The continent's 28 lowest ranked sides, according to this month's FIFA rankings, were all in the hat for today's draw, and 2 teams who played at the recent Africa Cup of Nations have been drawn to face each other, as Burundi will take on Tanzania. Another 4 other nations who played at the tournament in Egypt, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Angola and Guinea-Bissau, will also have to take part in the preliminary round between the 2nd and the 10th of September. The 14 winners will join the 26 other countries exempted from this playoff. They will then be divided into 10 groups of 4 after a fresh draw, and the group winners then go into 5 two-leg playoffs, with the winners qualifying for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Ivory Coast winger Nicolas Pepe seems to be caught in a 3-way fight to secure his services. Premier League side Arsenal are believed to have had an 80 million euros offer accepted by Lille, but it seems Napoli and Paris Saint-Germain are also in the race to get the 24-year-old into their ranks. If he does join Arsenal, it will make him the 3rd most expensive player signed by a Premier League club. Signing Pepe could meet an end to the Gunners' interest in his international teammate Wilfried Zaha. Arsenal have had 2 offers for Zaha rejected by Crystal Palace. The 26-year-old, who has told Palace he wants to leave, is also wanted by Everton. The Toffees, that are about to lose their midfielder Idrissa Gueye, is set to have a medical with Paris Saint-Germain as the Senegal international nears a move to the French champion. And could former Arsenal and Manchester City striker Emmanuel Adebayor be coming back to England? Several newspapers here in the UK have reported that West Ham, Sheffield United and Watford are looking at the Togo striker, who is a free agent after leaving Turkish side Istanbul Basaksehir. Cameroon midfielder Andre Frank Zombo Anguissa has joined Spanish La Liga side Villarreal on a season-long loan from Fulham. The 23-year-old international joined the Whites from Marseille for a fee of £22 million last summer, agreeing a 5-year contract at Craven Cottage. And finally, Nigeria international goalkeeper Francis Uzoho has returned to Cyprus on a loan spell with Omonia Nicosia from Spanish side Deportivo La Coruña. The 20-year-old endured a torrid time earlier this year after a loan spell at Cypriot rivals Anorthosis Famagusta was cut short due to irregularities in his registration. Let's move on now to basketball, as the NBA's annual Basketball Without Borders camp is taking place until Wednesday in Dakar, Senegal. The event, aimed at developing basketball talent in Africa, is organized with FIBA, the International Basketball Federation. This year, 60 teenage players from 29 African countries are playing with current and former NBA and FIBA stars. Our West Africa correspondent Louise Devast reports.
This is really a unique opportunity for young players to develop their skills, meet some of the best in their field, and it can also be a stepping stone. 68 former participants have been drafted by the NBA. It's the 17th edition, but the second only here in Senegal, and a lot has changed since the first edition. This arena, for example, is brand new. The NBA has also opened an academy just outside Dakar. And one of the players, a Senegalese player, who has made it across is Gorgui Dieng, who plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And we asked him how it felt to reach the NBA and if he had any advice for younger players.
He just has to be, he don't have to listen to anyone like to label him and tell him what he can and can't. You know, he can be whatever he wants to be. So don't listen to people label you like you can do this or you can do that. But just getting the NBA is very exciting.
Strengthening the pipeline of players to the NBA is one goal, but the other goal is also to professionalize and develop the sport here. An Africa League is scheduled to start next year, and so some are hoping that participants here will aim to reach the NBA, but also to play on the continent.
Louise Devast there. That's all for the sport today. Peter, back to you.
Merci beaucoup. Now, disabled people have been largely ignored by Africa's technology boom, but now one man is hoping to finance and develop dozens of ideas in hardware and software designed for people with disabilities, what is known in the industry as assistive technology. Here's more about his work.
As a disabled person, it's very hard, first of all, to navigate or move around in most of the cities in Africa. My name is Bernard Shira. I am a builder and connector in the innovation ecosystem in Kenya that is trying to build an innovation ecosystem around assistive technology. Assistive technology is any form of device or digital product or service that helps disabled people carry out day-to-day activities. It ranges from things like crutches, wheelchairs, hearing aids, eyeglasses, and sometimes it could be digital products that help people with various limitations to interact with the digital world, like computers. It was very hard for me to access school because most schools did not feel equipped to have me there as a student. These are some of the barriers, and sometimes these barriers are driven by a mentality of exclusion, where people think disability is a special, separate issue. The gap for assistive technology globally stands at 1 billion people that cannot access affordable and quality assistive technology. This is an area that over the last 100 of years, or for example, in the last 5 decades, dominated by NGOs and government. And the danger with that is government and NGOs do not have the capacity to reach everyone. So it's time now for other players to join. You have new technologies that are making assistive technologies more efficient. For example, in the area of prosthetics, in the traditional prosthetics fitting, first of all, it takes a very long time because they have to do a traditional plaster on you, and then the technology and the materials that exists are very heavy. So if you give that prosthetic hand or foot to somebody, it's gonna be a limitation in itself. We'll be very proud if we can create 80 to 100 new ventures in Kenya and in Africa. We'll be very happy if we are able to positively change and reach 9 million people in the next 3 to 5 years. And we'll also be very happy if we can change the mindset of people about disability and assistive technology.
Very interesting stuff indeed. Just before we go, let's give you a quick update now on a story we've been following for a number of weeks now. Sudan's main protest movement has called for nationwide demonstrations after at least 5 people, including 4 high school children, were shot dead. They'd been demonstrating on the streets of El Obeid, the state capital of North Kordofan, against a shortage of food and fuel. The authorities there have announced an overnight curfew in 4 towns and shut down some schools. That's it on Focus on Africa for today. Thanks for watching from me, Peter Okwoche, and the rest of the team. See you again very soon.